The Ark of the Covenant is a sacred item, said to be designed by God himself. But almost 3,000 years ago, it disappeared. Archaeologist Danny Herman has been exploring the Holy Land for over a quarter of a century. He's following the trail of a group who may have found the Ark.
The Templars were formed in 1119 here in Jerusalem with the full name Paueres Comilitones Christi Templices Salomoniki, the poor fellow knights of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. They established headquarters on the Temple Mount, and that's why they are known also as the Knights Templars.
The original knights came from France during the First Crusade. The Crusaders came from Europe to take the Holy Land from the Muslims and bring it under Christian control.
When we try to imagine what would a Templar knight look like, we, of course, need to imagine him in full armor, which means a chainmail, a helmet, white mantle with a big red cross. One of the mottos of the Templars were that everything we do is all done for God's glory.
The Knights Templar had a special task: to keep Jerusalem in European hands.
If that's what they do, if they're just bodyguards, it still doesn't help us understand where is all this power and wealth coming from. I mean, building a security company doesn't necessarily make you one of the most powerful orders in the ancient world.
So what was the source of the Templars' power? Could it be the influence of a precious item? One that had been missing for centuries.
So it's known that the Knights Templar took control of Temple Mount going back to like the 1100s. They definitely excavated there. They definitely dug some tunnels. They became very rich around this time, and some people have suggested they may have even found the Ark of the Covenant and other holy relics.
But others note that when the Knights Templar came to Temple Mount, the Ark had already been missing for 1,700 years. Is it possible that such an ancient relic could have survived long enough for the Templars to find it? One man in Jerusalem's old city might have the answer.
Here where I sit.
Hyder Baidoun and his family have traded in rare and valuable artifacts for almost a century. Antiques are in his blood. His collection contains valuable items from Jerusalem's past.
Look how beautiful fertility from the Old Testament. This is from the Iron Age. We have here something very interesting. See this, like a beetle, we call it scarab.
When a city is in threat, it is a common thing by its people to hide their valuables, like hiding a few golden coins behind a double wall, or Jews hiding their valuables when escaping the Romans.
Almost certainly there are many treasures buried in or around or under the Temple Mount. Jerusalem is riddled with caves and tunnels. Anything could be buried there.
In a small secret room at the back of Hyder's shop, some of Jerusalem's oldest treasures can be found.
These big jars, they are from the time of the Ark. See that one with two handles, that's cooking pot. The little one, they are from Iron Age, King David. It makes me feel that I am living in that time, in the original time. Not in this time. This is the technology time, the tech time.
The Ark of the Covenant is more valuable than any other treasure. But it's a prize Hyder Baidoon still hopes to find.
All the time they speak about it. The Templar, they took it from here to Europe. I estimate that the Ark is still in the Holy Land. And I believe it's hidden here, some place.
If Hyder Baidoon can find artifacts that are 3,000 years old, then the Knights Templar could have found the ancient Ark in Jerusalem.
We know for a fact that the Crusaders, like medieval Europe in general, were obsessed with relics. And if the Templars' headquarters is on the Temple Mount, it makes sense that they would be poking around and looking for any treasures of that temple.
The search for the Ark would be dangerous, requiring enormous manpower and countless resources. But the Templars discovered a way to finance their escapade, one that would change the way the global economy operated forever.
First and foremost, we need to remember that with all that wealth, the Templars were actually, as the bankers of antiquity, were lending money all over the place.
The Templars realized that they can provide a banking service of what we call today traveler's checks. Before you, the pilgrim, depart from southern France to the Holy Land, you can cash your money. We'll give you a receipt. When you get to Jerusalem, show that receipt and you will get that money back with a little commission.
A lot of people donated land and money to the order, and they were fantastic in managing their businesses and their bank account.
The Templars gave financial services to royal families and even entire countries. They opened the first private bank in London. It made the Knights Templar the wealthiest order in the Holy Land.
The Knight Templars had a lot of power. Now, they could have used that power to not only build fortresses, but also look for treasures and look for items that they were concerned with. And maybe they were also using the power they had to look for items like the Ark.
But is there any proof that they found it? The answer could be found underground.
Jerusalem is the most layered city in the world. There are so many layers of destruction and reconstruction again and again.
The city of Jerusalem began when David seized the land from the Canaanites. It was then conquered by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Romans. Each time Jerusalem was conquered, the existing city was turned to rubble.
The modern Jerusalem today is literally built on top of an ancient Jerusalem that's beneath them. Even the ruins of Solomon's Temple are apparently built on even older ruins.
If the Ark of the Covenant was still in the ancient city, it would be under 50 feet of dirt.
If today you want to reach the level of the Ark, the First Temple period, some 2,600 years ago, you might have to go through 25 layers before you reach the relevant one, which might have any valuables from the time of the Old Testament.
If evidence of the Knights Templar can be found in one of these underground layers, it could be proof that they were searching for the Ark. Archaeologist Dr. Kate Raphael is going to one of the lowest parts of the city in search of that evidence.
We assume that the Templars may have tried to figure out where the Ark is, but we have no written evidence, not in the archives of the Templars, nor of other eyewitnesses that wrote the history of the Crusader Kingdom concerning the Ark.
Kate is meeting Barak Monikandam Givon of the Israeli Antiquities Authority. He's digging down to the bedrock of the Temple Mount itself.
One of the things that we're thinking is that when Herod, or one of his successors, built the Western Wall, they actually cut through earlier remains, including remains from the Iron Age. So surely we are inside part of the Iron Age, the first temple city.
It's incredible to see the foundation and how close you are to the bedrock.
The end of the First Temple period is when the Ark went missing. Since then, whoever controlled Jerusalem controlled the search for the Ark.
There's no evidence of the Ark being found by King Herod. And also, the Muslims were no doubt aware of the Ark and the fact that nobody knows where it's vanished to.
If Barak can find Templar artifacts down here, it's strong evidence that they were looking for the Ark. They had the opportunity and the means for a major excavation project to rival Barak's dig. But 50 feet below the surface, he found a clue that he didn't expect, one that could lead directly to the Ark of the Covenant itself.
One of the most interesting finds that we actually found a few weeks ago is this very small 2 shekalim weight, and it actually predates everything we're seeing here. It comes from what us archaeologists call the Iron Age, which is the time of the first temple.
Shekalim weights were once traded instead of currency 3,000 years ago. Although Barak's dig might have reached the layer where the Ark was hidden, he has yet to find any direct proof that the Templars were also here. But these excavations are outside the Temple Mount's western wall. What evidence of the Templar search can be found underneath the remains of their headquarters, on top of the mount itself? Today, Temple Mount is administered by a Muslim authority, and new excavations on the mount are forbidden. But Danny Herman is meeting someone who's performing a different kind of dig. And he's uncovered a Templar treasure trove.
Hey, Tzachi!
Hey, Danny.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Tell me, what is all of this?
This is sifted material from dirt that originates from the Temple Mount.
Zaki Devira is conducting an excavation of the Templars' former headquarters.
Yeah, you can pour the bucket over here. Okay, Danny, please take the hose
Okay.
and wash it. We soak it with water so it will be easier to wash it later on.
Okay. And then what am I to look for?
Okay. You have to differentiate between the natural rocks and the man-made remains, which are the archaeological materials.
This examination of the Temple Mount was made possible by a crime that took place in the 20th century.
How did it all start?
In 1999, there was an illegal dig over there.
By whom?
By the Muslim authorities who control the site.
Bulldozers removed soil from the site and dumped it in the desert without authorization from the Israel Antiquities Authority. Zaki's team recovered the debris and found artifacts from the Knights Templar.
Can you guess what these are?
That looks like a little nail.
Yeah,
A horseshoe nail?
exactly.
This rubble comes from a site called Solomon's Stables. It was where the Knights Templar kept their horses, a cornerstone of their identity.
If you examine the famous mascot of the Knight Templars, you see two knights riding on one horse. So that is to show how poor they were, at least how poor they initially were.
But old nails aren't the only thing buried at Solomon's Stables.
Well, we have the biggest and the richest Crusader coins collection that were found in Jerusalem.
Can I hold it?
Yeah, but carefully so it won't fall down.
Okay. These are amazing. These small items are actually telling you quite a lot. A lot more than a piece of mosaic. It's economy, it's politics.
We have lots of coins of Baldwin III, but we also have some even one gold coin.
Any possibility that there might be a tiny fragment that could be related to the Ark, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
There is a possibility, and there is a possibility also that we found fragments, vessels of the temple.
Possibility.
Yeah,
You're not saying that you found.
No,
It's
we might have found and we didn't recognize.
Despite Zaki's discoveries, he hasn't yet found proof that the Templars located the Ark. But is it possible that the Templars did find it, only to lose it to a rival army? For a long time, the Templars' rule in the Holy Land was unchallenged. But in 1187, an Arab leader emerged from the east. His name was Saladin. He grew up in Syria to a family of military commanders, all sworn to reclaim the Holy Land. When Saladin was 48 years old, he was finally able to pursue his dream. He united the armies of Syria, northern Mesopotamia, Palestine, and Egypt, and marched them to battle against the Crusader armies.
Saladin, the Ayyubian, very clever Muslim commander, trapped them into a death trap in the dry fields above the Sea of Galilee.
It is a monumental moment. We see the whole Crusader army wiped out just outside the city of Tiberias. In one defining battle, it's almost as if there isn't a Crusader army anymore.
Fresh from battle, Saladin marched his army straight to Jerusalem.
Eventually, after a number of days of siege and battle, the city of Jerusalem actually surrendered.
After nearly a century in charge, the Knights Templar were banished outside the city walls. It seemed their dream of finding the Ark of the Covenant was over.
They didn't know that the end is coming. I mean, there was no help coming from Europe, and eventually the city falls, and the Templars leave together with all the other knights and citizens and the nobility.
But there are rumors that the Knights didn't leave Jerusalem empty-handed.
One cannot rule out the possibility that they actually found it, but it was so powerful and so important for them, they didn't want to make it public. So they kept it as a secret to themselves.
They may have found the Ark of the Covenant there. They may have taken it away with them. And where they took it is a whole other story.
if the Knights Templar escaped and the Ark in their possession, the investigation needs to leave Jerusalem and go to where the Templars sought sanctuary. The Knights, once sworn to protect weary travelers, were now nomads themselves. The Ark may have been their only thing of value. But where did they take it?
The thing about the quest after the Ark of the Covenant is that there are so many possibilities. It may have been hidden on Mount Nebo, it may have been carried to Egypt, maybe even further all the way to Ethiopia, or maybe it was concealed for centuries in Jerusalem. But the place where I'm standing now is one wild possibility that the Ark of the Covenant is actually in this exact city, or maybe, just possibly, right there.
Danny Herman is following one story that may have led the Ark to a watery grave. The Templars came to the city of Akko to seek refuge, but this was no safe haven.
All the orders suddenly have to find themselves a new home, and that of course includes the Templars, which were the most powerful of the military orders, and there's now coming to the city of Akko, but Akko was never actually one of their cities.
Danny Herman is retracing the Templars' journey through unfamiliar and potentially dangerous territory. As strangers in a new city, they were vulnerable to attack.
The old city of Acre also today is still an intricate set of narrow alleys. And this is probably how it used to look like also in the time of the Crusaders. Imagine these dark and narrow passages where sometimes even a carriage couldn't go through. They wanted probably to bring all their treasures, and yet they were nervous because they were not alone.
The Knights Templar may have escaped the Arab forces, but now they were in danger again. From someone else who might want the Ark of the Covenant for themselves.
There was another military force that was a rival to the Templars, the Knights Hospitallers. This is the central courtyard of their compound. Imagine knights and horses and a shaft reaching fresh water that the horses could drink of. You could even take your horse up to the second floor to monitor and protect your headquarters.
The Knights Hospitallers were sworn to poverty and charity. But they had a different calling to the Templars. The Hospitallers took an oath to help the poor and heal the sick.
The approach of the general public to the Hospitallers is probably that they are instrumental, that they are crucial to their survival, because everyone needs to go to the doctor when they're sick, and so all the countries are supporting their cause.
They were very respected even by the Muslims. In fact, when Salah ad-Din defeated the Crusaders in the Horns of Hattin, he slaughtered the Templars. The Hospitallers, he gave respect. He gave them a year to clear all their operation in the Holy Land in a proper manner.
The Hospitallers' oath to healing was sacrosanct, but their motivations may not have been entirely charitable.
You definitely don't want to mess around with a Crusader Knight and think to yourself, oh, this guy is going to be nice to me and perhaps take it easy on me.
Wow, look at these arches. They are so intricate. And these columns, look at these massive round bases. The Hospitallers were definitely making here a statement. I am powerful. I am solid. I want your respect.
The Knights Hospitallers were a powerful order with a zealous faith, one that would draw them to seek the Ark of the Covenant for themselves.
The members of the order were monks who made an oath to poverty, but the order itself was extremely affluent. And from the point of view of the Knights Templars, they were not to be trusted.
Crusaders are not homogeneous, and that goes all the way to the top of the pyramid. Crusaders could actually find themselves on opposite sides of the battlefield.
Now, the Knights Templar were sharing a small city with a rival order, one with its own knights and a desire to find the Ark. This town wasn't big enough for the both of them. It seemed that their rivalry was bound to boil over into bloody conflict. But less than a century after the Templars arrived in Akko, a new enemy appeared, the Mamluks.
We need to understand at this point, the Mamluks have already defeated the Crusader outposts throughout the Holy Land. The whole Mediterranean is now already in the control of the Mamluks. And so, if you will, they saved the best for last.
Akko was home to the remaining knights in the Holy Land. This was a battle for survival.
And it's not a fair fight either, by the way. There's tens of thousands, perhaps even over 100,000 soldiers in this Muslim army that is camping outside the city of Acre.
Against thousands of Mamluks were only a few hundred Templars to defend the city. But they had an ally in the fight, the Knights Hospitallers.
We have now all the orders that are left working together. As the walls are being breached, you start moving backwards towards the inner castle that is behind the walls. In this particular case, being a port city, that castle that you retreat to was right on the water.
But even the knights' combined might couldn't defeat the invaders. The city was destroyed, and the Ark of the Covenant may have shared its fate. Danny Herman has come to the Templars' last battleground, once a mighty fortress, now left in ruin.
In the 12th century, the place where I'm standing now looked completely different. Imagine an impregnable giant complex, the headquarters of the Templars in Akko. Visitors coming to Akko at that time describe it as a mighty complex with two towers at its front, toppled by two life-size lions made of gold. You can still see the outline of the complex appearing over the surface of the water.
At the center of the Templar fortress was a mighty treasure tower. There, the knights kept their most valuable possessions.
If indeed the Templars found the Ark when they were in Jerusalem and kept it, one cannot rule out the possibility that they took it and brought it here to this part of the city.
But with the Templars' treasure tower in ruin, it's possible that the Ark of the Covenant was lost in the final battle. But might the Templars have smuggled the Ark out of the city without being seen?
One of the things that are crucial to understand about Crusader architecture is that whatever you build, whether it's a castle on the shore or if it's a castle on the mountain, you always want to have an escape tunnel.
In the 1990s, an earth-shattering discovery was made in the city. A secret tunnel below the grounds of the Templar fortress.
So I am now several feet beneath the old city of Acre. This is the actual entrance into the tunnel. And it goes in a perfect straight line. What is all that water?
The tunnel stretches 1,000 feet, bypassing the city streets.
So the story here begins in 1994, when a citizen of the old city of Acre reports to the authorities he's hearing water leaking under his house. And when they send in a squad to test this, they realize it's not just any leak, there's a tunnel under our house. And making such a tunnel 800 years ago, this is quite a technological engineering achievement. Some of it is built, some of it is dug into the bedrock.
Before this tunnel was discovered, the trail of the Ark ended in the Templars' destroyed fortress. But now, there's hope it may have survived the attack.
If the theories claiming that the Templars had the Ark and took it with them to Acre, and now they need to clear it in a safe way, this secret passageway is a perfect way to do so and protect it.
The tunnel leads directly to Akko's main port, where the Templars and their treasure boarded ships and escaped the city.
That was the end of the Crusader episode in the Holy Land.
The Knights Templar were now scattered across Europe. Thanks to their banking infrastructure, their influence was still strong across the continent. If they had the Ark with them, the possibilities of where they took it are endless. But the trail hasn't gone cold.
The Templars, together with the other Crusaders, left to Europe. They had firm establishment in major European cities, such as London, headquarters there, churches.
One of their headquarters was supposedly in a town 2 miles from Edinburgh, in a place called Roslyn.
It's thought that Roslyn Chapel was being completed to hold the Ark of the Covenant.
The chapel has been owned for centuries by a family called St. Clair. Some of the family claimed this is where the Templars hid their treasure. Inside the chapel are potential clues, including familiar Templar symbols. A horse with 2 riders, a symbol of their oath to poverty. The unique apprentice column, supposedly containing the Holy Grail. And excavations have found a secret place buried in the foundations.
When you go to Roslyn Chapel, there's a special chamber beneath the chapel that seems to be for a special artifact, which may have been the Ark of the Covenant.
Scotland is just one of hundreds of possibilities where the Ark could have been hidden. But it was in 14th century France that the journey of the Knights Templar came to an end.
Knights, specifically at those times, are all about the 3 vows of chastity, poverty, and obedience. Okay, so obedience fits perfectly into the bill, but chastity and poverty, of course, don't sit well with the way that they develop.
When the Templars returned to Europe, they became the biggest moneylenders in the land. But they bankrolled the wrong people.
They were the bankers of Europe in the 12th, 13th centuries until the beginning of the 14th century, when they were basically destroyed physically by the King of France.
The King of France accused them of homosexuality and being infidels to confiscate their wealth.
With the support of the Pope, the Holy Order was dissolved. The remaining Templars were executed, and their assets were seized. But there's a chance that the Ark may have escaped capture. "50 miles from the center of Paris is another place with links to the Knights Templar. Chartres Cathedral is the 5th church on this site. Its 4 predecessors were burnt to the ground. Many think it's a place where the Ark was hidden from the King of France. It's a theory that requires further investigation.
Where they took the Ark, that's the big question. Some people have speculated that it could be Chartres Cathedral in France, even Ethiopia in Africa, or even Ireland to the hill of Tara. So where it is now, we really don't know, but there's many possible ideas.
But 800 years after the Templars were defeated, new evidence emerged that might suggest the Ark never went far from Akko.
In the 1990s, maintenance work done in the port of Akko was dredging sand to clear the port. And in that process, golden coins appeared. Salvage excavation conducted by marine archaeologists uncovered traces of a shipwreck. And a total of 30 coins that were found at that specific spot seemed to have belonged to an individual who was fleeing out of the city. Now, if the Templars had the Ark in Akko, and if they were also trying to clear their treasures out of the city, like that ship that eventually sunk, perhaps they also failed. Now, there are a lot of ifs here, but maybe, just possibly, the Ark was on that specific ship and it sank, which means the Ark could be in the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea.
In their search for the Ark, experts have followed the trail of the Knights Templar. From their humble origins in Jerusalem.
Do we go with the line that they were a good bunch of doctors trying to help the Crusaders, or were they on a much more specific mission? Don't know.
To their greedy escape from the Holy Land.
Some people do believe that the Knights Templar were always looking for the next great religious artifact, the next great bit of knowledge that would give them the edge in the world.
Were they successful in finding the Ark of the Covenant? Some historians think they were.
The Ark may rest at the bottom of Akko's Bay. Or perhaps the Holy Land is just the beginning of the Ark's journey through history.
We know it was an orchestrated attack on all Templar establishments throughout Europe, but we also know that the remaining few that actually made it out alive, we start to see this new order that is founded on the ashes of the Knight Templars and immediately makes a connection to the objects that were found on Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It's a possibility.
So if the Templars did take with them something from the Holy Land back to Europe, back home, I'm quite certain that at the top of their list would be the Holy Ark of the Lord. And therefore, perhaps we should look for it somewhere in Europe.